Every time you think LeBron is gonna slow down, he just keeps going. I saw a quote the other day that I loved, which was, even though Father Time is undefeated, he's at least lost a few rounds. And I think that sums up where LeBron James is right now in his career. I just finished watching the amazing United States versus Serbia game, and Nikola Jokic was this incredible gravity force. Steph Curry was raining down threes. Kevin Durant was cool as a cucumber. And Joel Embiid, who's not one of my favorite players, showed up to play. But despite all the superstars that were in that game, LeBron James, age 39, puts up a monster triple-double full of epic moments to save Team USA's gold title hopes. How is he still doing this? And when is he going to retire? This is a question that started to weigh on my mind last week. LeBron has been a part of basketball since as far back as I can remember. And when he leaves, the game is going to be so empty. But when is that? When will LeBron actually leave? I dove deep into numbers, stats, stories, anecdotes, and we're going to look at LeBron James. And we're going to look at the question of when will LeBron leave the game? So several years ago, LeBron started talking about how it would be a dream for him to play with his son. And we all saw what happened when the Lakers drafted Bronny James. Was Bronny the greatest prospect? No, but at this point in his career, LeBron gets what LeBron wants. LeBron doesn't just have one son, though. He has another son, Bryce James. Bryce is currently a junior in high school. And if LeBron sticks it out 2.5 more years, he could play on the same team as Bryce. You have to wonder, as good as LeBron is playing right now, is playing with both of his children one of his dreams. The next date that kind of like hangs out there is the Los Angeles Olympics. 2028, LA. LeBron has built his family's foundation in Los Angeles. His kids are going to high school in Los Angeles. LeBron's built a media empire, a winery business. Everything's happening in LA. You have to wonder if LeBron can avoid a major injury. Does he eye the LA Olympics as his swan song, as his retirement party? Well, let's break it down, starting with how good is LeBron right now? In this moment, age 39, is he a top 5 player, a top 10 player, a top 20 player? I think it's pretty surprising. I'm going to throw some stats out for you. Last year in the 2023 season, LeBron was 10th in PER with a PER of 22.8. His true shooting percentage fell and it ranked him 44th at 58.3%. His win shares put him 21st, and he ranked 13th in box score plus minus. He was also 11th if you look at value over replacement or VORP. So we're seeing 10th, 44th, 21st, 13th, 11th. It looks like LeBron James is somewhere between the 10th and 15th best player in the regular season if you look at all these stats together. And obviously he coasts a lot. He can still turn it on in the playoffs. I think a lot of people forget, because of how dominant the Denver Nuggets were, just how good LeBron James was in the playoffs. Well, what has LeBron actually said about his retirement? When you ask LeBron, what does he say? Go to the horse's mouth. He's emphasized this idea of family over and over and over again over the last couple of years, and we see that with Bronny. It makes complete sense to me that he would want to play with Bryce as well. Not only that, Bryce is a better prospect. He's significantly bigger than Bronny, standing around 6'5" right now, and that's a real 6'5". That's not these fake college combine numbers where everyone's saying they're 6'3" and then suddenly they're 5'11" without shoes. So there's a lot to be excited about in Bryce James, and LeBron has such generational wisdom. You'd think he'd want to instill that in his kids at the highest level. LeBron is getting old though, and on some days he's just a cranky old man. He said things like, I don't know, I can't even think about the future because I don't know. I'm happy right now. Let's look forward to tomorrow, getting that training camp going, but I don't know what the end of the road looks like. And I think that's accurate. I think there's some days where LeBron's body is probably really achy and tired. I'm 35. I go out and I play basketball, and some days I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? Other days I'll go out there and beat up a bunch of guys 10 years younger than me, and I feel great. But it comes and it goes, for sure. During the 2023 All-Star Weekend, LeBron said, I've not mapped out how many seasons I have left. I know it's not that many. I don't know how it's going to end, but it is coming. And you see that LeBron feels that. There's a couple things that LeBron has going for him in terms of playing for a long time. One of those is that his brain is literally a supercomputer. There's so many quotes that you can find of players that are surprised when LeBron comes up to them and he knows what play they're going to run. As a series goes on, LeBron gets more and more deadly because he memorizes your plays, your counters, your rotations, your tendencies. He knows when players get tired. Like, LeBron has a memory that is spooky. Just look at this clip. Sometimes I can't even remember what I ate for lunch, and LeBron is watching 4 screens at once like a supercomputer, calling out plays from games that shouldn't even matter. Like, this dude is watching Charlotte Hornets versus Portland Trailblazers games. It's crazy. It's also important to look at the precedent of, like, what have other NBA players been able to do. LeBron is 39, that sounds old, but the oldest player actually made it to 45. His name was Nat Hickey, and it happened a few years after World War II, so I really don't want to count that. I do want to look at Kevin Willis, though. He's kind of the honorary father time. He played until he was 44 years and 224 days old. He was only scoring 2 points a game, and he only appeared in 5 games, but players in their 40s don't normally contribute. Now, there's a couple players that put up some highlights and some flashes in their 40s. Dirk Nowitzki is one of those that really comes to mind. Karl Malone was pretty effective for most of his age 40 season. Vince Carter found a way to reinvent himself as a role player and was a great veteran presence. So there's no question in my mind, barring injury, LeBron can't play at least as long as those guys, but the question is, does he want to? When you go down the list of players that played past 40, you see all these single digits, guys averaging 1.5 points, 1.2 points, 2.3 points. I don't think LeBron's ego would ever allow him to do that, but physically, there could be another 4 or 5 years in LeBron James' legs. There is a precedent for it. What do the numbers say, though? What is his age of decline? LeBron is the definition of aging gracefully, but he definitely isn't at his peak anymore. If you look at him over 5 years and 10 years, basically his Miami Heat 2012-2013 season was his physical peak, his defensive peak, and he acquired so many different offensive skills that maybe somewhere between 2016 and 2019 was his LeBronto period, his second Cavs stint. That was probably his offensive peak. It's crazy that we have to talk about peaks with an S, because LeBron is not the player that had one peak. He has learned so many different facets of the game that it feels like he's just as dominant as he ever was. When you go back and you compare his top end speed now with his top end speed in his first stint in Cleveland, or even his top end speed in Miami, there's a noticeable difference. LeBron uses a lot more of his size, his physicality, and his intelligence now. He's also a way more skilled player than he was 10 years ago. But how much would LeBron have to lose before he becomes not an all-star? We're still talking about, is he a top 10 player, but when will he be not an all-star? When will he be not a starter? When would he be not the most valuable sixth man? And does LeBron's ego allow him to play when he's none of those things anymore? And that's kind of how I looked at it. Here's LeBron's defensive win shares over the last 10 years to kind of try to visualize his decline. Going back to 2014, he had 3.7 defensive win shares, which was good for 5th in the entire NBA. And now, 9 years later, in the 2023 season, you see his defensive win shares dropped all the way to 1.6. So it more than halved. And he went from 5th to 28th. Now that's still good. That's still top 30. He's still a positive player on defense overall, but it is declining. And if you extrapolate these for another 5 years, if it halves again, LeBron's going to be a straight up defensive liability in those last few years of his career. However, I do think what's going to age kind of permanently, glacially, gracefully is his offensive side of the ball. You know, LeBron is stronger than a lot of post players, and his skill set is what sets him apart. He's a pass threat in the post. He has a very well-developed post game. He's an outside shooter, and big men are really uncomfortable navigating screens, guarding the pick and roll, making switches. And LeBron, even if he loses another whole step, will be able to create these motions. Like, I think today, LeBron is faster than Luka Doncic. He's faster and bigger at age 39 than Luka. I think Luka can do some things LeBron can't do. Like, for example, he's got probably better body control. He's probably better at, you know what's crazy, just being honest, when I think about this physically, I'm trying to think of a physical tool that Luka has on LeBron. That's probably a good way of thinking of this. Like, Who is LeBron physically as he gets older and older? He's probably just Luka Doncic, who is the best or third best player in the NBA, depending on who you ask. That's how crazy LeBron's physicality is, that he can age into being Luka. This table shows LeBron over the last 5 years, and you can see that he went from basically being single digits in every major category, 5th, 7th, 3rd, 4th, 5 years ago in 2019, 8th, 20th, 15th, 10th, 9th, still basically top 10 in everything in the year they won the bubble championship. Now, just 3 years later, he's falling. He's falling closer to outside the top 10 than inside the top 10 by most of these major metrics, but they're still really, really good. I think we're seeing the part of LeBron's career where he desperately wants to be the third best player or the fourth best player in the regular season and capable of turning it on in the fourth quarter, capable of closing the game. When you think about when LeBron is going to retire and you answer that question, one of the things you have to understand, you can't talk about when LeBron is going to retire without talking about what he does right now to take care of his body. Training has evolved. We understand things about the human body now that we didn't 10 or 20 years ago. And it's like not just ice baths or massages or most likely HGH and testosterone. I would be shocked if I found out that LeBron has never done performance enhancing drugs. I'd be shocked. The man's jaw has changed structure. He's doing things physically, and you should be allowed. Like, this isn't the place for it, but like, you should be allowed to take recovery stuff. But most likely LeBron has taken that. He also sleeps in a hyperbaric time chamber. He also meticulously counts his macros. He's doing ice baths 2 times a day. He's doing so many ice baths, Joe Rogan would go, that's ridiculous. So like, LeBron has been said to spend as much as $1 million a year. I don't think there's a player out there that cares about taking care of their body more. And that's part of how he's continually able to do this. I looked at everything and I keep coming back to the 2028 Olympics. I looked at this for way too much. I looked at way too many numbers, way too many stats, way too many videos trying to solve the Rubik's Cube. And I think LeBron is going to really enjoy playing with his son, and he's going to like it so much. You don't want to have a favorite. You don't want to pick a favorite. Oh, I played with Bronny, but I didn't play with Bryce. I think LeBron is too good of a dad to be able to retire, and he didn't get a chance to actually play with Bryce. So here's what I think is going to happen. He's going to make it to playing with Bryce. He's going to finish that first season with Bryce, and he's only going to be 14 months away from the Olympics. There's a couple other things to consider too. LeBron James is the #1 scorer of all time, and LeBron is a guy that cares. He really cares about stats and legacy. Every year LeBron plays, he's just getting further and further distance on all of these counting stats. He has an opportunity to be top 5 all time in assists, maybe as high as top 3 all time in assists, while being the #1 scorer, while moving into like the 16 to 18 range in rebounds. And LeBron cares about this stuff. So I think if LeBron can find a way, and there's a challenge, how do I reinvent myself? How do I reinvent my game? I think if LeBron can continue to find a way to be effective, as long as he's a positive impact on the floor, I think he's going to keep playing. He's going to keep putting up stats. And again, anything could happen, knock on wood. We saw Kobe have an Achilles injury and he was never the same after that. There's a whole bunch of players that got hurt. Larry Bird hurt his back. He was never the same after that. Magic Johnson had unprotected sacks. He was never the same after that. I'm sorry, that was a low blow. But I think that if LeBron doesn't get hurt, he can play for another 4 years or at least 3 and then go, you know what, I'm going to shut everything down and prepare for the Olympics. And the 2028 Olympics in LA is LeBron's retirement party. This man has an opportunity to make an entire Olympics about him, about a 24, 25 year career. And that's what I think. Jump in the comment section though. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We talk about basketball. We go deep on the commentary here. When do you think LeBron's going to retire? When do you think LeBron couldn't? This is a fun question. When do you think LeBron couldn't play anymore? That's almost as fun as when he will retire. And I look forward to seeing what you guys say. Until next time, NBA Trash Talk out.